In the deep reaches of the galaxy, a silent rule had long governed the stars. No one interferes in the wars of others. It was a law followed by even the most powerful of civilizations, one that had kept the peace, or at least a fragile balance, across the universe for centuries. Yet far from the center of the Galactic Council, on the edge of known space, a small planet named Zarion was about to become the battleground for an impossible war. The planet's location made it a coveted prize, rich in resources and strategically valuable. But the Zarion people had always been isolated, their technology far behind the great empires that roamed the stars. For years, their peaceful existence had been undisturbed, hidden behind the veil of galactic indifference. That all changed when two colossal factions, the Makrith Empire and the Khazul Dominion, set their eyes on Zarion. The Makrith, a ruthless and expansionist empire, had conquered countless worlds with their overwhelming military might, while the Khazul Dominion, an ancient race known for their brutal tactics and hunger for control, sought to add Zarion to their ever-growing territory. Both factions were driven by greed and ambition, and neither showed the slightest interest in peace. To them, the lives of the Zarion people were nothing more than collateral damage in their pursuit of power. With their warships descending upon the planet, the Zarion people found themselves caught in the crossfire, powerless to resist the invasion. For them, the future seemed hopeless. The galaxy, a vast collection of civilizations, watched from a distance, adhering to the law of non-interference. The intergalactic peacekeepers, once seen as the guardians of order, were nowhere to be found. The universe remained quiet as Zarion's fate seemed sealed. Not a single fleet from the neighboring stars dared to interfere. The ancient rule was clear: no one would help. The Zarion people, faced with annihilation, could do little more than wait for the storm to break. As the Makrith and Khazul forces closed in, the first fires of war lit up the sky, a terrifying omen of the chaos to come. Yet, beneath this grim silence, a question hung in the air, one that would change everything. What if someone decided to break the rule? What if the galaxy's long-held promise of non-interference was about to be shattered? As the fleets of two mighty factions loomed over the defenseless world, an unexpected spark was about to ignite. No one knew it yet, but the quiet before. The storm was about to end. As the Zarion people teetered on the edge of despair, their hopes nearly extinguished, something unexpected happened. In the quietest moments, when they thought the universe had turned its back on them, a desperate decision was made. The Zarions sent out a distress signal, one that stretched across the vast emptiness of space. They had no way of knowing who, if anyone, would hear it. But to their astonishment, their message did not vanish into the void. Instead, it reached far beyond their expectations, reaching a place no one could have predicted. From the depths of space, an unknown fleet appeared, like a shadow breaking the calm of the night. The ships, sleek and powerful, glimmered in the dark expanse, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Each ship was a work of art, crafted with technology so advanced that it seemed almost otherworldly. The fleet was unmistakably human. Earth's war fleet had arrived. For centuries, Earth had remained a quiet, distant observer of galactic affairs. The humans had chosen not to involve themselves in the politics or wars of the wider galaxy, preferring to stay on the outskirts, out of sight, out of mind. The ancient rule of non-interference was one they had respected, just like every other civilization. But there were lines even Earth would not allow to be crossed. The cries of a people on the brink of extinction could not be ignored, no matter how distant the galaxy might be. Commander Evelyn Drake, the cold and resolute leader of the war fleet, had made it clear Earth would not stand by while an entire species was wiped out. Her decision was not one made lightly. It was a warning to all who heard it. Earth's war fleet was not just a military force. It was a message. To the galactic powers, It was a declaration that humanity would not be passive in the face of injustice. The fleet was large, its ships formidable, each designed for one purpose: to fight. And they were coming for Xarion. As the fleet dropped out of warp and arrived in the orbit of the planet, it was clear to the galaxy that things were about to change. The Makrith Empire and the Kazul Dominion, for all their might and arrogance, had underestimated humanity. They saw Earth as nothing more than a small, isolated species, a weak planet, with no real influence on the galactic stage. But the moment they made contact with Earth's war fleet, their assumptions shattered. The first skirmishes were quick, brutal, and devastating. Humanity's tactics were unlike anything the Empire and Dominion had faced before. The human ships moved with precision, striking in ways that seemed to defy all known strategy. The Makrith and Kazul forces were caught off guard, unable to react in time. The humans fought with a strange kind of relentlessness, a deep-seated drive to protect the innocent that no one had expected. The Xarion people watched in awe as the once dominant factions began to falter. Commander Drake, cold but calculating, led her fleet with a brilliant mind and a determination that surprised even her enemies. She knew that this wasn't just a fight for Xarion, it was a fight for Earth's place in the galaxy, for humanity's role among the stars. As the battles raged on, the Makrith and Kazul forces quickly realized the humans were not the weak, isolated species they had imagined. They were something entirely different, something much more dangerous. And as the war began to escalate, the galaxy held its breath, knowing that Earth had just made its first move in what would soon become a much larger, far-reaching conflict. The rule of non-interference had been broken, and the consequences were yet to unfold. As the war between the Makrith Empire and the Kazul Dominion raged on, the situation grew even more desperate for the Xarion people. With the arrival of Earth's war fleet, the battle for Xarion took a dramatic turn. Commander Evelyn Drake, leading the human fleet, knew that this was no ordinary war. The Makrith and Kazul forces had underestimated humanity, and now they were about to learn just how dangerous Earth could be. Earth's fleet, sleek and deadly, moved with a precision that shocked the galaxy. Their ships were faster, their weapons more advanced, and their tactics, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, shattered the traditional ways of warfare. While the larger Makrith and Kazul fleets were used to overwhelming their enemies, through sheer size and firepower, they were now being picked apart by the humans' unorthodox strategies. Precision strikes, rapid maneuvers, and lightning-fast attacks left the enemy forces scrambling to adapt. It was as if Earth's war fleet had turned the battlefield into a deadly chess game, where every move was calculated, and every victory built on intelligence, not brute force. The Xarion people, who had long accepted that their planet would soon fall under the control of one of these massive factions, could hardly believe their eyes. Here were humans, strangers to the stars, fighting, not just for their own survival, but for the survival of a people they had never met. It was a level of compassion and bravery the Xarions had never imagined. The humans fought not only with superior technology, but with a deep sense of purpose. Commander Drake, with her calm determination, emphasized the values that humanity held dear: unity, resilience, and the unwavering belief in the preservation of life. The battles were brutal, with huge explosions lighting up the sky and the thunderous roar of weapons shaking the stars. Yet, as the days passed, the Makrith and Kazul forces began to fall back. They had underestimated Earth's war fleet and were now paying the price. The two mighty factions, once so certain of their victory, now found themselves caught in a struggle they hadn't prepared for. The tides of the war were turning. Earth's fleet, with its innovative tactics, had driven the once dominant forces into retreat. Xarion, the small and helpless planet, was no longer on the verge of destruction. Under the leadership of Commander Drake, The humans had managed to push back both the Makrith and Khazul forces in a series of brilliant campaigns. News of the success spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the galaxy. The galaxy's political and military powers, who had long adhered to the rule of non-interference, now saw humanity in a new light. Earth was no longer a forgotten planet in the farthest reaches of space. It was a force to be reckoned with. And with every victory, the humans proved that they were not to be underestimated. For the first time in a long while, the galaxy's oldest factions felt a new sense of unease. The humans had come to Zarion as protectors, and in doing so, had shattered everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The battle for Zarion had become the first chapter in what promised to be a much larger story, and the universe would never be the same again. The arrival of Earth's war fleet had shaken the galaxy to its core, and now the universe was watching with bated breath. The success of the human fleet in pushing back the Makrith Empire and the Khazul Dominion had changed everything. No longer were they seen as just another small, insignificant species. Earth had proven itself to be a force that could not be ignored. As the galaxy's power structures began to shift, some alien factions, seeing the humans' dominance, started to choose sides. Some aligned with Earth, hoping to share in their newfound strength, while others, fearing what the humans might become, began to undermine them. Alliances that had stood for centuries began to fracture, and neutral factions who had long stayed out of galactic conflicts found themselves forced to take a stand. Would they support the humans and risk angering their enemies, or stand by and watch as the balance of power shifted forever? The decisions being made in the quiet corners of space could alter the entire course of history. Meanwhile, on Zarion, the people had rallied behind their unexpected saviors. The once helpless world now had hope. Earth's war fleet had become a symbol of strength, courage, and protection, and the Zarions were determined to defend their newfound freedom. But not all was peaceful. Deep within the Khazul Dominion, a radical faction led by the ruthless warlord Kor had begun plotting their revenge. Kor, a figure known for his unrelenting thirst for power, saw the human presence as a threat to his ambitions. With a fierce hatred in his heart, he devised a plan to launch a final, all-out assault on Zarion, a plan that would attack from multiple fronts, hoping to overwhelm Earth's fleet and wipe out the Zarion resistance once, and, for all, his goal was simple: eliminate the human threat and restore the Khazul Dominion's unchallenged dominance. As the war raged on, Commander Evelyn Drake found herself facing not only the external pressures of an enemy determined to destroy everything she had fought for, but also the internal pressure from Earth's own government. The higher-ups, watching the political fallout from Earth's involvement in this distant conflict, were growing nervous. They warned Drake that the cost of continuing the war could be too great, both in terms of resources and political consequences. Some even suggested retreating, pulling back from the brink before they became too deeply entangled. But Commander Drake, though conflicted, could not bring herself to abandon the Zarion people. Her heart was tied to their survival, and she knew that to leave now would be to forsake everything they had fought for. With steely determination, she refused to retreat, knowing that the fate of Zarion, and perhaps the future of humanity, was on the line. As tensions reached a boiling point, Earth prepared for the decisive battle that could turn the tide of the war once and for all. Every move was now crucial. If they succeeded, it would mean a victory not just for Earth and Zarion, but for a new era in the galaxy. But failure would bring catastrophic consequences, not only for the planet they had sworn to protect, but for the future of humanity's place in the stars. The final battle was fast approaching, and the entire galaxy stood at a crossroads. The question was no longer whether Earth could hold its ground, but whether they could survive the storm that was about to come crashing down. The final battle had arrived, and the fate of Zarion and humanity hung in the balance. Earth's war fleet now faced the combined might of the Khazul Dominion and the remnants of the Makrith Empire, who had set aside their differences in a desperate attempt to annihilate the humans and regain control. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. Massive space battles erupted across the stars, with fleets of warships darting through the void, engaging in fierce tactical warfare. Explosions lit up the dark expanse, and the sound of weapons fire reverberated across the battlefield. For every victory the humans claimed, the enemy retaliated with overwhelming force. But Earth's war fleet had proven time and again that they were no ordinary adversary. Commander Evelyn Drake, as resolute and fearless as ever, knew that this battle would decide everything. The time had come to make the ultimate sacrifice, to push Earth's forces to the limit in order to secure victory. She made the bold decision to lead the charge directly into the heart of the enemy's territory, confronting Warlord Kor himself. Kor's flagship, a massive fortress in space, stood at the center of the enemy's fleet. It was the key to their survival, and Drake knew that if they could disable it, they would cripple the entire Khazul-Makrith alliance. With a cold, determined heart, Commander Drake led her ships into the fray, directing them through a deadly gauntlet of enemy fire. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Maneuvers that defied logic, with Earth's war fleet darting and weaving through the enemy's defenses. The energy was palpable, every decision made under immense pressure. The clash between Drake and Warlord Kor was a brutal one. The two leaders faced off in the heart of space, surrounded by the remains of fallen ships and shattered debris. In the end, Drake's brilliance as a tactician and her unwavering resolve proved to be the turning point. She managed to disable Kor's flagship, crippling the Khazul command structure and throwing their forces into chaos. At the same time, Earth's fleet tore through the Makrith remnants, their previously formidable military power falling, apart in the wake of the humans' precision strikes. The combined might of the Khazul and Makrith factions, once thought to be unstoppable, was no more. As the final moments of the war unfolded, the galaxy was left in stunned silence. The two warring factions, having suffered immense losses, were forced to acknowledge the undeniable truth. Earth had become a force to be reckoned with. With Commander Drake's sacrifice and the brilliant victories of Earth's war fleet, both the Khazul Dominion and the Makrith Empire agreed to a peace treaty. They recognized humanity's strength and resolve, and Zarion, the small planet on the edge of the galaxy, was saved. But the true impact of the battle was far greater than anyone had imagined. The arrival of Earth's war fleet had not only secured the survival of a world, but it had also changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Humanity had carved its place among the stars, and its reputation spread far and wide. Earth was no longer a distant observer, but a player in the galaxy's political and military arenas. Commander Drake's legacy lived on as a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the unyielding will of humanity. The galaxy, forever altered, would never forget the day when Earth's war fleet emerged from the shadows to change the course of history.